Hi everyone and welcome to episode 111 of the Talk is Cheap show. And before we start, no, your eyes are not playing tricks with you. Our regular analyst Curtis was not able to make it today. He's got some prior commitments. However, I pulled out all the stops and managed to get a very able and adequate replacement. None other than AFTV creator, founder, owner, the man himself, Robbie from AFTV in the house. We have some, brethren.
I'm here, man. 111 episodes.
Believe it or not, yeah, man.
Jeez,
111.
Man. Wow.
Stretching back over 2 years now. So,
wow, that's incrable, man. Well
yeah,
done.
Man. And
well
listen,
done. I didn't know it's so many.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I was going to cancel it after the first two.
Don't let Curtis hear you say that, bro. But listen, I just want to start by saying 111 shows, man. Like Robbie says, that's quite an achievement. So thanks everybody for watching, tuning in, supporting, providing your comments. And listen, I'm sure we got another great show lined up for you today, man. So keep watching. And in the end, I'm going to ask for you to be interactive and send us your comments and all the rest. So let's get going, bro. Let me start by asking, how was your weekend?
Yeah, good. You know what? It was a great weekend. It was a glorious weekend, as a matter of fact. You know what I mean? Because you know what? I just had my feet up. Watching the games and looking at the games, and you know, for how it turned out for Arsenal, it was almost perfect. Yeah, Man United dropped points. I expected them to, you know, beat Southampton. They dropped 2 points in that game. Tottenham losing at home to Wolves, that was a shock. It was. And even West Ham, I mean, all right, they got that sort of late equaliser, but they dropped points as well. So it was a good weekend, man. It was, you know, for an Arsenal fan, you know, I was thinking to myself, we might come out of this weekend quite a lot of points down, but we didn't, and it bodes well for Arsenal at the moment. You know what I mean? Because
we're going to touch on that towards the end of the show. Did you catch up with the Super Bowl?
I did watch the Super Bowl. You know what? I actually watched the whole thing because first of all, I said to myself, I was a bit tired. I said, you know, I'm probably only going to watch one half of it, but then. As I was watching, I was like, actually, this is a good game. And then I said to myself, I am feeling a bit tired now, though. I'm going to watch the halftime show. Amazing, because, you know, you had like Dr. Dre and Snoop and 50 Cent and all that on it.
50 plus Cent.
yeah, 50 plus. He's about as big as me, wasn't he?
Yeah. The upside down thing didn't quite work, but it was funny all the same.
And Kendrick Lamar, but it was a great halftime show. Mary J, it was brilliant, right? So after I watched that, I was like, I want to watch the second bit because the game was so close. It was. And then it was a brilliant, I have to say, I mean, I'm not the biggest, it's not, I like American football, but I don't watch it week in, week out. But I have to say, it was a great game. And the LA Rams lifting the trophy.
And as you said there, it was a great game, great halftime spectacle, great game. And of course, with the LA Rams winning, there was some special significance there for Arsenal fans.
Kroenke, you know, I was saying it on a show that I did yesterday that, you know, in case, for people who don't know, when it's American football, in the Super Bowl, you know, like in other things, you give the trophy to the captain. You don't in America, you give it to the owner.
You do.
So it was actually Stan Kroenke who got the trophy, lifted it,
gave a speech.
Made a speech, which, you know, we're not used to hearing this guy say anything.
Yeah.
You know, so...
it's a good point, that.
And basically, yeah, he's on top of the world now, isn't it? He's won the biggest prize in American sport.
That's right. And if you noticed as well, I'm not sure if you did know it, a lot of people would not have noticed, but in the background there, Josh.
I didn't see Josh. Yeah, you were saying to me,
he was on that dais as well.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's obviously for them as a family, for them as owners. You know, it's a huge. That's the biggest prize you can win in American sports.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, they are American. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's not going to get any bigger for them, is it? And yeah, it was a great achievement for them. But can they bring any of that to us?
Well, this is it, my man. I mean, listen, what we've spoken there as a preamble kind of segues nicely into what I was going to talk to you about for the first part of the show, because following that Super Bowl win, which is obviously great for the Kroenkes, Josh Kroenke, his son, and who's far more involved at Arsenal than Stan is, he gave an interview with a popular podcast over there called Road Tripping Podcast, I think it was. And he gave quite an extensive interview during which he covered a lot of things, including the Kroenkes' 15-year involvement and subsequent full ownership of Arsenal, which they become outright owners in 2018. And he talked about things like the structure of Arsenal, some of the challenges in running the club, the difference between running an American franchise and a UK football club in the Premier League. He talked about the challenges that arose through COVID. He talked about the now, how can I put it? Well, it was a failed
infamous.
Super League. Yeah, infamous is the word.
Infamous Super League.
Infamous Super League thing. And he sort of spoke about how that broke down. But arising from that, there was some positives insofar as they've managed to build a relationship with the fans that they're looking to build upon. You're looking a little bit skeptical about that.
Fans.
You know what I mean?
That's still open to debate.
And he talked about how from now onwards, that's going to be a priority there, is listening to the fans and trying to build a relationship with the fans. So that was...
It's a shame it took 15 years to
exactly.
to get to that.
There you go. But then he would argue that they only took full ownership of the club since 2018. So I think what he was trying to say in the podcast was a learning process. And now they want to engage with the community more. And he spoke about... one of the key words that kind of struck me was he talked about a term he used, draft and develop, which was their plans for Arsenal, as it is with some of their other franchises, notably the LA Rams, was that bringing in young players, having a certain culture of the way they do things, he called it foundation and culture, and trying to develop the club and grow their own. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that, man.
Yeah. A lot of stuff in there, you know.
Was you convinced?
No. The jury's out. You know, the jury's been out for a very long time. They've been involved in Arsenal Football Club for a very, very long time. 15 years is a long, long time. You know, AFTV, I thought, you know, it's been going on 9 years. You know what I mean? 15 years they've been involved. And we've not really had hardly any success apart from a couple of FA Cups. And when they came in, you know, they came into quite a successful football club, you know? So the jury's out, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter how much talking they do now, people want to see results. I'm just hoping that the facts, you know, I'm trying to be optimistic about the whole thing that, as I said, they've won the Super Bowl now. That's the biggest prize in... Some people argue in sport, I don't, because to me it's an American sport. I think it's the biggest prize in American sport. I still think Champions League's bigger and World Cup are bigger because it's the whole world or the whole of Europe. But don't get me wrong, it's like Super Bowl is a huge, huge thing to win. Now I'm hoping that mentality of winning is going to filter down to... You know, they're going to have the same attitude when it comes to Arsenal, because if you look what they've done with the LA Rams, it's been incredible. I mean, the stadium is absolutely, I mean, it's the best stadium in the world, most expensive stadium in the world. Yeah. You know what I mean? Some of the players that he brought in, and I know he's talking about youth with Arsenal, there is a lot of youth, young players in the LA Rams team, but they did also bring in some superstars as well.
They did.
To complement that team, right?
So it has to be said, their systems are slightly different with...
well, they've done it in the
drafts and stuff.
The draft system, but they still done a lot of big trades.
They did.
To get these big names in to win now, and they've won. You know what I mean?
Far more active in that than they've been in recent transfer.
So I want to see them now do a similar thing with Arsenal. When they talk about the young players, yes, we've got a great crop of young players coming through in Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, even some of the players that they bought. They've been young, you know what I mean? Gabriel's still young. Tomiyasu's still young. These are young guys, right? So that part of it, but now what's going to be really interesting for me is this summer. Because, you know, Aubameyang's gone, Lacazette's going, you know, Eddie and Nketiah, loads of players are going to be gone, right? We're going to need a lot of investment into the team because we've let go so many players. What are they going to do? What caliber of players are they going to bring in? Now, I'm trying to be optimistic, and I like the fact that in January they were trying to get Vlahovic, and I do genuinely think they were trying to get Vlahovic. That wasn't a hoax, as some people claim. But they didn't get Vlahovic, and the jury's still out. You know what I mean? You know, we're still questioning a lot of things, what they've done. So, yeah, he said a lot of things in there, but we've heard a lot of it before. Yeah. You know, why is it taking so long to communicate with the fans? What? Because I see the excuse of well, we only became the full owners in 2018, is it?
I think what he was saying was, this is what I took from it, having seen the interview, is that he was saying that with the failed Super League thing, the lessons from that they've learned from, which is to communicate more with the fans, try and read the room.
We've been telling them that for ages.
Well, we have. But
I remember, Laurie, going to one of these before, when you used to be able to go to the AGMs and that, right? And I remember going to one, and Stan was there, and he said about 2 words. That's why when I heard him speaking the other night, I was like, wow, he lives. You know what I mean? He does talk.
Although to be fair, Josh Kroenke did say in the interview that he's now taken control pretty much.
Yeah, but I'm saying, going back to Stan, right? This is when Stan was in, Josh weren't really in the picture. Stan was running things, right? They literally said, oh, we've got Stan Kroenke's here. And he just literally stood up and said, oh, thank you guys. Hi, hope you're all doing well. That was it. He didn't say anything. He was asked questions by people in the audience. He refused to answer any of them. They were all answered by the other people on the panel. And I was like, what's going on, you know? So it took them that long to realise that, you know,
but to be fair,
so long.
To be fair to Josh Kroenke, what he's saying is, and I know what you've said is absolutely true, but what he's saying is that with the failed Super League, and you remember how unpopular Arsenal were when that broke, he's saying that the upshot of that is that they've learned from their mistake in not communicating, not valuing engagement with the fans and the people.
Well, that's
like
fair
that.
enough.
So from now onwards, their strategy, part of their strategy is what they call community engagement, where they will actively seek the views of fans. They will seek to liaise with the fans and establish a meaningful relationship.
And we'll find out if that is true. I have to say, there's been a few things that they've done recently that I liked. For instance, the other day, the campaign that Arsenal did where they dropped the red and stuff like that. And I think communication has been a little bit better, but there's still a long way to go. I'm always up for giving somebody a chance to turn themselves around, right? So we need to see big changes with the Kroenkes, right? All right, Josh Kroenke is a lot more vocal than his dad is. I think he's a
lot more vocal, he's younger, he's going to be more in tune with what...
Yeah, and I'm hoping that is true, that they did learn from the Super League, because the whole Super League debacle, I think all of these owners, they realised they came down to earth with a bump, because I think they wanted to sort of, especially the American owners, they thought that they could do like the American franchise thing here in the UK, and they realised after that that's impossible. So I think in a way I do think that's going to change them, because not maybe because they wanted to, because they have to, because I think now the Kroenke family have realised that if you're going to keep hold of Arsenal, the dream of the Super League, which would have meant that, you know, year in, year out, you would have made loads of money without having to qualify, without any threat of any sort of, you know, not getting into the top 4 and not being in certain competitions. That's gone now. That's gone. You know what I mean? There's been things are coming in even in Parliament that are going to protect the fans against anything like that happening again. So that is gone. So they now have to rethink how they're going to approach everything when it comes to Arsenal. So I do think they will change. I think they're going to be kind of forced to change. Not just them, all of these owners that were hoping of that. But now they have to start looking at it a different way. Well,
let's look at Arsenal are like one of 7 sports franchises that the Kroenkes own. So we spoke exclusively there about the LA Rams, but they also, which is an NFL football team obviously, but they also own the Denver Nuggets, NBA, Colorado Rapids, MLS.
Football team, been to
Colorado Avalanche, the ice hockey team that are doing very well at the moment. Colorado Mammoth, they're a lacrosse team, for those who don't know. And the Los Angeles Gladiators, which are like Oversports, what they call Overwatch, which is like esports. So there's a number of franchises there, and of course Arsenal. So I think what Josh Kroenke was pretty much saying in the interview, without saying it, they've got a model that they've used successfully with the LA Rams. They won the Super Bowl. Also, they're doing very well with the ice hockey team they own, the Colorado Avalanche. And he was saying that the plan is to assimilate those things those good things that they've done to get those teams to where they are, and Arsenal's going to be based on that same project. Are you convinced that that will happen?
Again,
and do
I'm
you
waiting.
think that the Super Bowl win will be a catalyst for?
Well, I'm hoping that my whole thing, trying to be positive with this, because we can get into a sort of thing where it's just bash, bash, bash. Oh, it's the Kroenkes, forget it. No, I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm trying to be hopeful, but they have to prove to me. Now, I look at it and I say, winning the Super Bowl, one of the things that always used to be levelled at the Kroenkes and KSE is that you've never won anything. You've got all these teams, they never ever win anything. I remember I was in America one time, and this American Arsenal fan turned around to me and he said, Robbie, do you know what the Kroenkes' most successful club is that they own? And I said, well, I don't know, the Rams, this. He goes, no, Arsenal. I was like, Arsenal? He goes, yeah. He goes, they're the only ones that ever win anything. He had a couple of FA Cups. None of the others have won anything. That's changed now.
That has changed.
LA Rams have won the biggest thing in American sports. The Avalanche, as you said, they're favourites to win.
Yeah, they're currently on top of the Western Conference.
Yeah, so league. Now all of a sudden, can he translate that success through to the teams? I looked at Liverpool's owners. It was a similar thing. With them, they own the Boston Red Sox. They've been successful with that, now successful with Liverpool. I'm hoping that now the Kroenkes are going to be like, right, come on now, we got this massive club in England, based in London. Now's the time. We can't have that doing well and then fans getting at us over in the UK and in America as well, because there's a massive fan base in America saying about what you're going to do to make Arsenal successful. Hopefully now they're going to give Arsenal the right amount of love and care that it deserves, because we
Are you more encouraged that it would appear that Josh Kroenke's taken the reins now? Because to all intents and purposes, it's him now, isn't it? Not so much Stan. He said he's working very closely with Edu and a couple of the other people on the board there, Mikel Arteta, to get things right. Are you convinced that he will be the right man to get this project up and going and lead it forward?
As I said, I'm repeating myself in a lot of things. He's got to prove it. I think that is where the Kroenkes are at. They have to prove it to the Arsenal fans. I think he's talking a good game, but a lot of politicians talk well, and they don't deliver. I think first of all I want to see is in the summer, what do they do? Do they back Mikel Arteta? Whether we get into the top four or not, do they back Mikel Arteta? That will give me clearer signs to see what their plan is. We've already seen what he's talking about, the young player stuff. We've seen that. Now, what are you going to add to that really makes Arsenal challenge? Let's people, some of the other people involved in football in this country, fans and footballers at other clubs and owners and managers, lift their head up and think, hey, you see what Arsenal are doing? Hey,
I think what he's saying is that they've worked hard to establish a strategy, a philosophy and a culture. But like you said, we want to see now tangible
You need evidence.
Things, of improvement. Yeah. And that's really going to manifest itself in the amount of money they spend.
I give them credit, as we said, on the young player side, I give them credit. We've seen, as I said, Saka and all these guys coming through. Got to give them credit on that. You've got to say that they have backed the manager in all his decisions. They backed him in the recent Aubameyang stuff. They backed him in everything else he's done, in his clearing out of players, everything. They like Mikel Arteta. They've invested. And you kind of see parallels with, he's a very young coach. The guy who coached him, McVay, was the guy who coached LA Rams to win the Super Bowl, was a young guy. So I see the similarities, but, we ain't won nothing.
It could be argued as well. It could be argued as well that obviously we all know, well, we don't know everything that happened, but we know that Aubameyang's gone now, and there was some speculation around discipline and stuff like that. Yeah. So even that could be an indicator of what he spoke about when he talks about foundation and culture and emphasis on youth. So, things like that. But like you said, let me just ask you, so given what we've said about tangible backing, was you disappointed then that there was no money spent in the recent transfer window in terms of bringing
I was.
Or let me finish the question. Are you erring on caution and saying, well, look, they were trying to get players, but they couldn't get the right players. So rather than spend money on players that they didn't necessarily want, they reeled it back in and said, look, we will spend money, but we're spending money on the right type of player.
I look on it as a big risk. I wasn't expecting them to, I know they were, as I said, they were trying to get Vlahovic. That fell through. I still think we should have got a striker. We should have went and got someone else. We're Arsenal Football Club. All right, if you're going to have to pay 10 million over the odds in this January transfer window, do it. Right, I think we made a major error in not bringing in a midfield player in early in the window as well. But the biggest mistake for me was the striker one, because I'm not convinced. We saw the game the other day. Lacazette, who I really love as a player, I think he's been a great servant to Arsenal, but he's not clinical. And we saw that game against Wolves. He could have killed the game off. He missed the chance that your top strikers score. We've seen a lot of chances missed by Arsenal forwards, over the month of January and December. So I just look on it and I say to myself, I would still have gone out there and dislodged one of those big name strikers that they must have a plan B, C, D, right? And I would have tried to attempt to get one of those strikers away, because I just feel that the prize of getting into the Champions League is huge this year and will really impact on the business that we do come the summer. If you go along to a top player, it's not just the salary, it's not just you're playing in London at the Emirates, it's not just the great training ground that Arsenal have got, it's also they want to play in the Champions League.
For sure.
The real top players want to play in the Champions League. So if you've got that and all the other things I've just named, and you've got an exciting project ahead, that's when you can really attract those players in. And I'm like, now we're kind of hoping that guys like Eddie and Lacazette are going to step up, and we've not really seen proof of that. Now I'm hoping that they do step up, or I'm hoping that we find another way to get the goals, but it's a huge risk. And if we get to the end of the season and we've missed that chance of getting into the top four, which has been opening right up for us, I think it would be, you'd look back at January and say,
opportunity missed.
Yeah, we've seen it over the years with Wenger, innit? How many times have we'd Arsene Wenger, we're like, get a holding midfielder in, and we could actually win the league, buy a centre back, and we haven't done it. So sometimes you've got to spend over the odds to bring in what you need at that particular time, and I think that was a mistake. I think that was a mistake, but hopefully, because the other teams are messing up so much, we can still slip through the gate and get that top four. I think it'd be huge. I really do. If we can get into the top four, then I hope for the Kroenkes to go into action in the summer and really back Arteta. I think with 3-4 really top quality, world class. Imagine if you add 3-4 world class players to the current squad that we've got. All of a sudden, you're looking at a team that can challenge.
Yeah.
Because I was happy.
Of course, this is all hypothetical.
I'll give him one bit of credit. Laurie. Last summer, I thought they made some really good signings.
They do.
You look at Ramsdale and a lot of these signings weren't the obvious. A lot of the signings we were
they weren't what you call
critical.
marquee signings.
Yeah, but Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, Ben White, Nuno Tavares, they've all been good signings. Sambi Lokonga, I think we'll see the better of him next year. So you've got to give him credit for that. But this year, now we want the big spice on top.
Well, it's interesting, like Josh Kroenke said, he goes, they put the foundation in place. Now we've got to see what you quite rightly said is tangible evidence of, moving forward. So we'll see how that goes. But listen, thanks for your comments on that. People out there watching, let us know what you think. Was the LA Rams winning the Super Bowl, the Kroenke-owned LA Rams winning the Super Bowl, the catalyst for better things at Arsenal? Are you convinced that the Kroenkes are the right men for the job to take this club to where it should be? You've heard what Robbie has to say. Let us know. We like to keep the show interactive, so let us know what you think on that, and we'll cover that again briefly next week, and when I look back on some of your comments. Right, moving on then, because time is moving, and there is something else I wanted to chat to Robbie about. Another one of our regular features is where we preview Arsenal's next game. So at the weekend, we've got another big game coming up. You spoke eloquently there about the top four and how Arsenal there, you know what I mean, other teams are dropping points. We're in and around it and we should really go for it, make an established push for it. So this week, we are hosting Brentford. Now, it's the corresponding fixture. We played at Brentford earlier in the season. It was the first game of the season, actually.
First game of the season.
So those of you who remember that game, it was the first game of the season. The first game of Brentford being in the Premier League.
In their brand new stadium.
In a brand new stadium, in front of their fans. And it didn't go that well for us, did it? 2-0 defeat. It's quite an ignominious display, actually. We got called out after it by a lot of the pundits who said that we simply didn't want it enough. You know, there were always some mitigating circumstances. We did suffer a few injuries. There was a few COVID situations in there as well. But nevertheless, we were well beaten on the day. But that was then, this is now. You fast forward, what? That was August, so what, you're talking 6 months. Things are very different now, yeah? Brentford, they're on a poor run of form. I don't think they've won in their last 7 games. Last 6 Premier League games, I think they got 1 draw. That's about it. So they're on a pretty poor run of form, whereas we are picking up. We're still not there yet. We had a very good win against Wolves of only 10 men, but we are at home this week. So we should be favoured to win that game, Robbie. What are you saying?
Yeah, of course we're favourites to win it. We're at home. And we've got a very good record at home. We've only been lost at home to Man City and Chelsea. So at home we've been very strong. This is a huge opportunity for us.
It is.
You know? Again, some of the rivals around. Tottenham, they've got Man City away. So this is a chance to put a little, you know, you'd expect us to win the game. I remember that first game of the season. I was at the game. It was a horrible performance. You know, we just weren't at it. We just weren't at it. That game, there were, like you said, though, a lot of mitigating circumstances. When I look back at that game, there was injuries. There was to key players, key players. There was COVID. Mikel Arteta said since that he wanted really the game cancelled. Wow. But I think they didn't want to cancel the game. The first game of the season, wasn't it? Remember that was a Friday night kickoff, the sort of curtain opener. So I think
the only thing disappointed me about that game in particular, I accept that there were mitigating circumstances. And obviously, listen, Brentford, it was a massive game for them. The first game in the Premier League, wasn't back in Brentford. First game in the Premier League in front of their own fans. It was always going to be a difficult game for us. What disappointed me on that day is that we didn't match them for enthusiasm and physicality.
Yeah, and we folded in the game. And if you remember that game, I think a lot of people were really expecting Brentford to come with a lot of passing, and they didn't. They were very direct. So the amount of long throws they put into the box, it was like playing Stoke, right? And I'm telling you, but it worked though. I don't blame them for doing it. It really, really worked. Are they going to be able to bring that to the Emirates? I'm not sure. So it's going to be a completely different game this time around. As I said, it's Arsenal in a different place. I think Arsenal owe Brentford some bit of revenge.
Yeah, we got get back.
Because, you know, that started off a run of the first 3 games losing. Yeah. There was talk of us getting relegated. There's some of Brentford, like Ivan Toney, saying that, you know, maybe they should call him to come and play instead of our strikers. So I want the Arsenal players to look at that game and say, right, number one, we owe Brentford one. We've got nothing against Brentford, but we owe them one because they put us in our place in that first game. So we need to get them back. But the prize of getting 3 points in that game is huge. You know, going to a game against Wolves after that, we're at home, which won't be easy. They're going to be coming for revenge after we turn them over. But it's a huge opportunity for Arsenal.
It is.
And I'm very hopeful. You know, I'm looking from now till the end of the season. There's a long way to go still. There's a lot of tough games still for Arsenal. But the fact that there's no FA Cup, no Carabao Cup, no Europe, effectively 1 game per week. You play a game, you go away, you prepare for the next one, which is the following week in most cases.
Let me just ask you, what sort of team do you want to see? Right.
I want to see, I think I want to see the same sort of team like what I saw against Wolves. Tomiyasu's back in training, so you could possibly bring him back in, although I thought
What's your thoughts on Pepe?
Cedric had a great game. I was going to come to that. So hopefully if Tomiyasu is back in training, maybe we could bring him back in that game.
Is it time for Pepe to get a look in?
Well, I was going to say up front, there's going to be no Martinelli because, of course, he got that ridiculous. I'm still fuming about that red card that he got in the game against Wolves.
Are you fuming at him or are you fuming
I'm fuming at the referee.
Okay.
I'm fuming at the referee. Me and you have had arguments about it. But
listen, I thought it was a bizarre sending off, but I'm just saying that...
it's a typical referee trying to be the man. I've never seen that before, ever.
Listen, where me and you and other Arsenal fans have differed slightly is that I'm not saying that the referee... Listen, it may well be in the rule book, but I just thought his interpretation of it was kind of poor.
Didn't need to do it. It didn't need to do it.
Where I differ to a lot of Arsenal fans is that a lot of Arsenal fans are sort of in this zone where they're thinking that the referees are out to get us. You know what I mean? There's some kind of conspiracy against Arsenal. I'm saying, no, it's not that. The referees are just poor, full stop. It applies to all the teams,
but you know
not
what,
just
Laurie,
us.
right? You know what? I don't think there's a conspiracy. I don't think there's an agenda against Arsenal per se. But what I do think is that Arsenal are a marked club, right?
You do.
So I look on it and I say, you look at certain players. Granit Xhaka's a marked player by referees because of his history of getting sent off and fouls. He doesn't get away with much because of who he is. I think that's how they view Arsenal now. Because we've had so many red cards, we don't really get away with much.
More red cards than goals in 2020.
Exactly, but we don't get away with much. The slightest thing is out. And that's how I...
So you buy into the conspiracy then?
It's not a conspiracy. I think it's that sort of thing where it's just in a referee's head that, I'm coming at Arsenal this week. There's always some little thing going on. So it's easy to give a yellow and red card against us. That's what I feel has happened.
Because personally, I wouldn't say we were maliciously...
No, we're not a dirty club at all.
Or aggressive or, you know what I mean, anything like that. I just think it's circumstance. And I think, to be honest as well, I'm going to say this, right? I'm going to keep it 100. I think some of our players at times have not managed games.
They haven't.
I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago, Arsenal versus Man City, a game that we were playing well. Some would even say dominating at that point.
Dominating the game.
And we imploded in the space of about 10 minutes. And if you remember, the Gabriel sending off, he got booked similarly to Martinelli in a way. The man's got 2 yellow cards in the space of a couple of minutes.
You know what, Laurie?
After you get that first yellow card, Robbie, you're supposed to say to yourself, you know what? I'm on tenterhooks now. I'm just going to play it straight for the next whatever.
That second yellow he got in that game, did he hack the player down? Did he chop the player down?
That was a yellow card offence.
No, hold on. This is what I'm saying when I think the referees...
Sibling rivalry going on
This is where I think, I look on it and I think these referees, it's easy to give a yellow. If you remember that, he sort of went to grab the player, so he sort of held him slightly and then he went like that. He realised that the referee could easily, in that case... I've just
done
said
us a favour.
You see it in loads of games though, where the referee's like, "Hey, you're already on the yellow. Watch it." He didn't. Straight bang. It was on the halfway line. It weren't for like the players running through on goal. It's those little things I look at and I'm like, yeah, you're probably to the letter of the law, but I don't see that consistency. With a lot of other teams, and
I would agree
it's
with you.
easy to give a yellow card against
Where
Arsenal.
I would agree with you, Robbie, is you could, as an Arsenal fan, determine it somewhat harsh. But what I would say is the players, I mean, even Gabriel, he's a young guy, but he's not inexperienced. He's been playing Premier League football now for a couple of seasons. He should know.
No, he shouldn't know.
That if he transgress like that,
no, but how's he going to know?
It's very likely he's going to go off.
How's he going to know? It's never been happened before.
No, not Martinelli. I'm talking about Gabriel.
Yeah, but listen, right?
In a game that we were bang on course of beating City that day.
Yes, but what I'm saying is what he did there, I've seen many other players get away with, right? But it's easy. That's what I'm saying. There's no discretion. There's no common sense used by the referees when it comes to Arsenal, is what I've noticed. It's always all in. Yeah. And I feel that's because Arsenal are a marked club, just like Xhaka. He's known for fouls, right? So sometimes he commits fouls sometimes that I see other players do and get away with. But because it's Xhaka, there's certain, in football, there's certain players like that, aren't there? There's certain players that are perceived as dirty or
But my argument to you, but then what do you do? If you know you're a so-called marked club or a marked player, if you're the likes of Granit Xhaka and you go out there, you're talking about an experienced guy.
Don't get me wrong.
An international, probably the most experienced player at the club, a guy that once captained the club. Surely you go out there thinking,
100%.
I've got this first yellow card, okay, I've got that, now I'm going to chill.
100%. And the thing is about that game the other day against Wolves, and I don't think a lot of people noticed it, is that both him and Thomas Partey, early in that game, were both on yellow cards, and they managed it. They managed it. They knew they were on those yellow. I remember there was one time when Partey went to make a challenge, he realised and he just sort of pulled out of it, and the player sort of ran through. So they both managed that yellow card situation. Hopefully, both of them coming off the back of a red have learnt. But I'm saying that these referees, man, they give no discretion, no common sense when it comes to Arsenal players, because to me, Arsenal are easy. It's easy to give a red card to them.
Well, I would agree with you up to a point. I think we're going to have to beg, agree to differ.
If Rodri did that in the same game, he wouldn't have got the second.
Well, that's open to question. And again, listen, people out there watching, what do you think of this little mini debate me and Robbie are having? Because me and you have had this debate off camera a lot.
I'm not saying.
And listen, I agree with the first part of your assessment. You're saying that the standard of refereeing is poor, and I 100% wholesale agree with you on that. Where we agree to differ is that I don't think it's a personal agenda against Arsenal.
No, I didn't say it's not an agenda, but we're marked.
Okay, you're saying
by the referees. It's a subconscious thing in their head that it's easy to give yellows and reds to Arsenal. Okay, in my opinion.
Okay, well, we'll have to agree to differ on that. But listen, I should just ask you, prediction for the game?
I think we'll win. I think we'll win 2-0. I think it won't be an easy game. Brentford have now got a lot to fight for. But I think, I want to see Arsenal go out there and really be on the front foot. Because I think Brentford, they start winning some games. They're in relegation, or they're going to be in a big relegation fight. I think they lose this game this week, this weekend, and a couple other teams around them lose. They're starting to get drawn into a relegation fight. So I don't think it's going to be the same type of Brentford that we saw at the start of the season, where they're confident, they've got nothing. Because a lot of people forget that. That's why I always say I don't want to play newly promoted teams early in the season, because they've got nothing to lose. It's Arsenal coming to town, nothing to lose. We'll go all in. If we lose, we lose. Everyone expected us to lose. This one's different. They need something from it. They need even a point, so it's a bit like when Burnley came the other day. They're going to be fighting. But if Arsenal we're supposed to beat Burnley at home. And we have to beat Burnley at home if we are to be pushing for the top four. These are the sort of games that we must win.
You make a very good point. The only thing I would say there is that we said pretty much the same things when we played Burnley a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that's true. I think, we should have won that game. And again, going back to my thing about strikers. Yeah.
Goals have certainly become an issue.
Again, Lacazette had a golden opportunity in that game that he spurned, 2. Yeah. And we weren't impressive in that game, but we should have won it. But going back to your thing, because you did bring up Pepe before we got into that argument.
Of course, yeah. I'm just going to put my cards on the table. I think Pepe has been almost, and I don't use this word sparingly, almost criminally underused. He's just come back from AFCON, where he had a very good tournament. He scored 2 worldies, had an assist. A lot of people were saying that he was on course to be man of the tournament up until Ivory Coast were knocked out unexpectedly. But yeah, man,
Where would you play? Where would you play him right now, though?
I'm not saying I would necessarily start him, but I would say to him, you are going to get minutes.
Yeah, no, listen, he's got a part to play from now till the end of the season, and I want to see him stepping up when he does get that part to play. I think he will look brilliant in AFCON. But what I would say is, at the moment, Saka in that position is brilliant. Right, on the left-hand side, if he's available, it's Martinelli. He's even keeping Smith Rowe out of the team.
No, I'm not hating on Saka, of course. I love Saka. And I'm not advocating for Pepe to be brought in at the expense of. What I'm saying is I would like to see Pepe get more minutes.
I agree. I want to see Pepe. Pepe scores goals. He was our top goal scorer last season. We need to see him on the pitch because we're not scoring enough goals. So I want to see him on the pitch as much as possible between now and the end of the season, whether he's coming off the bench, because I think he is a guy that brings goals, he brings assists, and in games that are really tight, which Brentford could be this week, a guy like Pepe can unlock it.
Yeah, with Pepe's skill, his guile, and the way he plays, he's the kind of guy that if you bring him on as an impact sub, he can unlock a defence. Yeah. But listen, I've really enjoyed it. We're coming to the end of this week's show. As I said at the start of the show, we didn't have Curtis, who's a great guy and great pundit and everything else, but we got a very adequate replacement here. Big up to Curtis. I'm pretty sure he'll be back next week. He had some family commitments to take care of, which is all good. But listen, I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for stepping in. Listen, guys, you've heard what Robbie's had to say with regards to the Kroenkes. Will the LA Rams Super Bowl win prove as a catalyst for Arsenal for better fortunes in the future? It's up in the air, like Robbie says. Josh Kroenke's spoken very eloquently. He's used some buzzwords and all the rest of it, and philosophy speak. Now we want to see tangible evidence. Is that right? We need to see tangible evidence.
100%.
What do you guys think? Do you think, in the light of the Super Bowl, that this may be a catalyst for Arsenal to start climbing up the table? What do you think? Let us know. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Robbie, is there anything you want to say in passing?
No. Thank you very much for having me on. You know what I mean?
Big up.
Hopefully I can get back again on in the future. 111 shows. Big up.